This was interesting to me, y'all. So when yesterday it was, I mean, you saw the memes and everything going back and forth. Do this here. Put up Where's Our Money? Why don't you go do this here? Why don't y'all play that, and then put the graphic up? Because I'm about to talk about money, y'all. I'm about to talk about money. Okay. So I'm about to unpack something real quick. Y'all don't want to miss this. Go ahead. Been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now, you're not going to have black-owned businesses. All right, y'all, so how many times have y'all heard somebody say, we doing this for the culture? This is for the culture. We control the culture. We own the culture. And I'll be honest with you, I really hate when I hear that because it's a lie. It's a damn lie. And this is not targeting the sister who tweeted this. So let me just see if I can just remove her name. I don't want to show her name. But she tweeted this yesterday, and I took exception and I commented on it. And I just want to weigh in here. She tweeted, Black Twitter controls the culture. Woo! The way this subset will take over the entire platform when something big happens, sheesh. She was talking about Black Twitter and Irish Twitter, and everybody talking about when Queen Elizabeth II died yesterday. So when I saw this, I immediately said, no, see, there we go again. When we begin to say Black Twitter controls the culture. So let me say this here. You don't control nothing you don't own. What it means is black people, we are a participant. We are the show in show business. While we are shining and flossing on stage, somebody else is counting the paper backstage. And when we're done shining and flossing, somebody else is going to the bank. And the reason I want us to reframe this conversation is because we've got to start looking at what happens with ourselves in a much more critical way to understand how we can change the economics of this conversation. On Wednesday, when we announced the deal with the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, I said we're talking about trying to create a whole new ecosystem here where we're not just saying getting sponsorship dollars. How if we're saying we're putting on events, then we're using black companies and black event planners and caterers and transportation companies, and we're using folks, audio-visual companies. It's an entire ecosystem. See, when we talk about the culture, if you're controlling the culture, you're also making the money. And you're not getting screwed out of the money. How many of y'all remember the news? Remember Verzuz during COVID, and remember Timberland and Swiss Beats said, no, I wasn't ready for it yet. I wasn't ready for it yet. Remember Timberland, they said, we doing this for the culture. We ain't doing this to make money. It's for the culture. But then they later announced they were selling Verzuz to Triller. This was the LA Times story. Triller acquires Timberland and Swiss Beats music platform Verzuz. Initially, they said, we're doing this for the culture. It's for the culture. That article was dated March 9th, 2021. Y'all remember this story right here? August 16th, 2022. Swiss Beat Timberland sued Triller for $28 million in missing payments. A year later, the lawsuit says that Triller made the initial 2 payments, then stop paying. I hear people talk about, oh man, we running the culture on TikTok. But then black creators are complaining how they're not getting paid and getting ripped off. I hear the same thing on Instagram, other platforms. I hear this constantly. Now, here's the reality. African Americans, we are America's cultural tastemakers. The problem is we are constantly the show in show business. And so if we're going to sit here and have a real conversation about the culture, should we not be saying we own the culture? Don't say we control the culture if you got to go ask somebody else for permission. See, if you control the culture, then you hiring black lawyers. If you control the culture, you making sure you got black accountants. If you control the culture, all of a sudden, you're creating opportunities in the ecosystem for African Americans. That's when you control the culture. Words matter. I am in the business of words. And I believe too often what we are getting excited about, we're getting excited when somebody is shining and flossing, and we ain't asking a question. Who getting paid for this? See, look, there's a reason me growing up, I didn't give a damn about no Air Jordans, because my self-esteem wasn't based upon an expensive pair of damn shoes. My value as a young black man was not based upon the kicks on my feet, because I knew I couldn't wear those to a job interview. And why was I going to make Phil Knight more money? When we start thinking differently and seeing differently, y'all have heard me say since we launched this show, we need, as African Americans, we need a reprogramming. And that's what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, we have got to stop shucking and jiving and dancing and performing for other people. And we have got to begin to say, no, I'm not doing that unless there's some equity involved. You take black performers right now. You got companies coming to them trying to kick endorsement deals to them. They should be saying, no, I want equity. Why am I going to take the small money? See, some of y'all might be saying, well, Roland, you can't call that money small. Yes, I can. If you're trying to pay me $5 million and you're going to make $500 million, then that $5 million is small. Matter of fact, while I'm talking, I need y'all to find that video of the brother who was in The Lion King, and his mama told him, son, if they going to pay you that much for this, no, take that check. No. Y'all gonna pay me on the back end. That brother has made more money. He turned down I think it was $1 million. He turned down like $1 million on the front end. His mama wasn't no PhD. She wasn't no formal PhD, but she had a street PhD. And she said, now son, if they paying you that much, I think your voice is worth a hell of a lot more. Y'all, that's owning. That's controlling, we would say, controlling the culture. And so I just want us to be thinking and operating differently. And I want us to start challenging others when we begin to use those phrases, doing it for the culture. BET ran all these promos. The biggest night for the culture. The BET Awards is the biggest night for the culture. See, now we need to start asking the question, how? What culture? For me, the BET Awards ain't the biggest night for the culture. It's not. We've got to have a redefinition. Folks on YouTube are saying, the brother I'm talking about, his name is Jason Weaver. I'm just trying to get us to think different. I want us to stop saying things that are not true. Black people driving Twitter. We don't own that. Don't own no stock. But you got Isaac Hayes III over here who's created a social media platform called Fanbase. I'm an investor. Why are black folks not flocking to Fanbase? But black people cause Clubhouse, which ain't that many people own, to go to, from a start to a $4 billion valuation in 9 months. I heard black people going, oh man, I got my own channel on the, you ain't got no channel on the Clubhouse. No, I own my room. No, you don't. You don't own your room on Clubhouse. They could delete your ass tonight and your room is gone. You ain't even renting a room. You're borrowing a room. I'm just trying to get us to think a little different. And Isaac was talking about this here. And matter of fact, this was a tweet that Isaac hit. This was what, 3 days ago? This was a few days, he hit this, pull it up, come on now, come on. He said, you can't have the independence and power of Tyler Perry building your businesses on top of corporations and infrastructure you don't own. Why you think he gave an entire speech about building his own table in Atlanta and owning your stuff? Now let me go ahead and unpack. Akim Smith made some dumbass comment in the YouTube channel. And see, this is what trips me out when you got folk who don't know what the hell they talking about and they make dumbass comments, oh, but you think I don't see what you posted. He goes, Akim Smith tweeted, Tyler Perry don't have no power. Akim, do you know how stupid you sound? Do you know how stupid you sound? The man just said he owns a studio that in landmass is larger than the top 4 studios in Hollywood. The annual payroll, Akim, since you want to say something stupid on the YouTube channel. The annual payroll at Tyler Perry's studios is larger than the budget, larger than the payroll of a number of mid-sized American cities. I'm gonna let that sink in for y'all. Mr. Kim says you got something to say and you don't know what the hell you talking about while you saying it. The annual payroll, Akim, of Tyler Perry Studios, Anthony just talked, is $154 million. That's employees who are sending their kids to college, who are buying houses, who are using the money for other purposes. But your silly ass said he ain't got no power. Well, tell me this, Akim. who you employing? See, Kim, you got power when you can take your camera and produce your own shows and you ain't got to ask nobody permission. It's power when you can distribute your stuff across the world and you ain't got to ask nobody. See, Kim, power is when you Tyler Perry and you on your 8th plane, you own your own island, you do all these shows and movies, and guess what? It was done by black people. Tyler Perry ain't never tried to cross over. Tyler ain't trying to make no movie with white people. Tyler said, black folks made me rich. See, I love it when y'all silly, simple Simons talk about, so-and-so ain't got no power. I can guarantee you this, again. Elected officials in Atlanta and Georgia know about his power. I can guarantee you that. But see, your comment is an example of black folks who don't know what the hell they talking about, but all you do is bump your gums thinking you sound smart when you actually don't. Y'all, controlling the culture is when you own. That's controlling the culture. And when we can get to that point where we are owning what's ours and now controlling what's ours, then we can have that conversation. I'm gonna bring Kelly, Michael, and Matt into this. And Matt, you were when I mentioned, again, hiring lawyers. Again, when you control a culture, when you say no, he gonna be the lawyer, she gonna be the lawyer, he gonna be the accountant, she gonna be the CFO. You do that when you control and own the culture. But when you just the show in show business, they tell you, no, you the talent. You going out there and perform. We'll handle the business. Matt?
I think the talent is indispensable from the product, and I think that's important. And I say that to say because I do think that obviously, as you said, we're the tastemakers, we're making the culture. But I think the point that you're making is a salient one, that we don't own it in large measure. And I really like your point about, hiring the black lawyers, hiring black accountants. There's a big push for that across the country. And, I find a lot of clients come in and hire me because they want a black lawyer. And it's important that in the culture, we have that same insistence on making sure that, black tastemakers, to use your term, are being compensated appropriately. I mean, that's the justice element of this, right? Because in this country, historically, we have been the ones to create the culture, but that culture has always been vilified until it became monetarily valuable to the larger culture, and then they just co-opt it. That's what happens. So we have to create a sustainable system of monetizing this culture that we not only create, but have consistently been at the forefront at the entire time we've been in this country. I mean, that's really the crux of it. And that's why Tyler Perry and all the others who have been economically able to not only create the culture, but to own all of that culture. Even Brother Sam Cooke back in the 60s, those are luminaries, and those are people that we need to follow their example.
Except Sam should have hired a black lawyer.
I agree.
Because Sam let that white man draw the paperwork up, and that white man he took Sam's company and made Sam an employee, and Sam had no idea. And that dude to this day owns the damn royalties to Sam Cooke's publishing. That happened. But see, Kelly, it's some other folk who don't get it as well. Somebody who goes by the name Shaka Zulu made some ignorant ass statement on the YouTube channel. And I got to go ahead and call this out too. I already smacked Akim for that dumb comment he made. Shaka Zulu tweeted, he posted on the channel, well, Roland, what does this have to do with the overall health of our community?
Am I allowed to speak? Are you about to speak?
Um, what does this have to do with the overall health of our community? Shaka Zulu, if all your ass ever will be is an employee, that means you're an employee. See, Shaka Zulu, when all we are renters and not homeowners, we ain't controlling the damn thing. When all we are transient people who move from place to place and who can be moved around, then our health and our community is impacted. You really don't understand the concept of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about owning our culture, which means owning our intellectual property, owning what we create, and not just simply dancing and singing and making things and tweeting things and posting things and somebody else making billions. Do I really have to make it any simpler? I literally can't put it, I can't go down to the first grade. I'm gonna need you to come up at least to the fifth grade. Kelly, go ahead.
Well, nothing that you said was wrong. Nothing that Matt said was wrong. But what I will say is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. And we know this. But there is a difference between being a consumer to the white economy versus being a consumer to your own. And that is the dollar circulates so that you actually benefit from it faster and you benefit from it better. So that's why we say buy from Black businesses. That's why we want more Black entrepreneurs, because we also want Black employees underneath those Black entrepreneurs so we can circulate that dollar within our own communities, right? Tyler Perry was absolutely correct. Like, when you make your own table, you make the rules and you can invite people to your table. You can make sure that everything is in-house and you can have that power build upon itself so that it can benefit the community at large that look like you. And it's a beautiful thing when you realize that you created something, or in the case of those who do not want to create, you contributed to something that benefits you. And that is why we are so adamant about supporting Black business. That's why we're so adamant about making sure that Black people own their things so that we can benefit from what we create. We cannot do that when all we have is what's on Twitter, when all we have is the memes and the surface stuff. We need to dig deep and realize that it's not going to be easy. We realize that there are going to be forces against us that will try to dismantle it. Enter, Black Wall Street here and Rosewood there and Seneca Park and all these other historical moments in which we did try to build and it fell apart because the forces that be dismantled it. But that does not mean we stop trying. That does not mean we won't eventually succeed. And it also does not mean that even though it might not be to the level of those things, it certainly can be, but in the event that it doesn't mean that we still can't benefit from whatever we create so long as we own it, which is why I love being on this show with you, because it is Black owned, it is Black media, and it really is unfiltered for what we need out there in the Black community. Yeah, I agree with everyone here on the panel. There's so much more I can say, but I'll leave it there for now.
The thing here, Michael, first of all, see, is y'all don't think I pay attention. Karina Wiggins, yeah, you said you didn't get a shout out. Now you got a shout out. You gave on Zale. You gave on August 6th. See, I just saw it, but you didn't like to send an email saying, hey, you missed my name. So you should have sent me an email, Karina, but you got your shout out. There you go. The thing I'm trying to do right here, Michael, I'm trying to get all them people who stood up and applauded Tyler Perry. You know what they should have done? They should have said, the moment I leave here on Monday, I'm changing how we do business.
Right.
See, when Prince told him at the Soul Train Awards, own your masters, he was trying to let them know it's still folks signing done deals today.
Right.
What we're talking about, and look, this doesn't mean that you don't do licensing deals. It doesn't mean that you can't sell equity in your company. It doesn't. And see, again, it's like I didn't get mad when Essence sold 49% and the other 51%, because the reality is Johnson Publishing Company made more money off of the sale of Essence than the owners of Essence did. That's just a fact. So I don't get mad when somebody black sells their business. I don't take it personal because I'm not the one who had to meet payroll. I'm not the one who had to sacrifice to build a business. But what I am trying to get us to understand is I want our people to stop helping others become billionaires. But then we see somebody black building something and we got all kind of questions for them, and we don't question nobody white when they got something. I want us to get out of the mindset of just giving our stuff away and getting nothing in return. Go ahead.
Well, you know, brother, this reminds me of Dr. Carter G. Woodson in The Miseducation of the Negro, 1933, his most famous book. What we're talking about is reprogramming Black America. We're talking about reprogramming the minds of African Americans that have been stripped of African history, culture, language, our spiritual systems. And we've been taught to see reality through the eyes of Europeans. So, you know, your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. The clip that you showed of Tyler Perry is so important. One of the reasons why it's important is because the first movie filmed at Tyler Perry's new studios in Atlanta was a film called Black Panther that debuted February 16th, 2018, that did $1.3 billion worldwide and was the #1 movie for 5 weeks. Atlanta is like the real Wakanda. Atlanta's like the real Wakanda. That's where they filmed a lot of that movie. That they employed about 3,000 people. Disney, Marvel. They employed about 3,000 people in Atlanta. In Georgia, including Atlanta. Pumped about $89 million into the Georgia economy. People talk about the Black Twitter and controlling the culture. Well, if you control the culture on Black Twitter, then who removed Uja Anya's tweet about Queen Elizabeth II?
Mm-hmm.
See, we're used to being social media sharecroppers. We're used to being cultural sharecroppers. That doesn't mean that we don't have ingenuity. That doesn't mean that we don't drive. Yeah, you drive hashtags, but you don't control the hashtags. You don't control the algorithms. You don't own stock in the company. You can't take tweets down. Okay, so we have to understand the difference between being players on the fields and actually owners. And I don't mean being an owner from a position of trying to oppress people like the British Royal Empire. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being an owner, being able to employ our people, being able to empower our people. People talk about we're doing this for the culture. Well, what type of culture? Because a lot of this culture is a dehumanizing culture that calls our women B's and H's, calls our people N-words, dehumanizes us. But then when we get out of line and say something about another group of people, we get disinvited from Coachella like DaBaby did. DaBaby got invited to Coachella. He got invited to other concerts, putting out dehumanizing music, dehumanizing African Americans. He gets out of line for 2 minutes on stage, not on a record, for 2 minutes on stage and makes homophobic slurs, things like this, and gets disinvited from the same festivals that invited him for dehumanizing Black people, financed by white corporations. So when you talk about you doing this for the culture, whose culture? You doing this for white supremacist culture that finances the dehumanization of African people through media? We have to reprogram how we think. So this is extremely important. And lastly, brother, with Isaac Hayes III, I know you interviewed him before on Black Star Media Network. If possible, sometime sooner next month, if you could bring him back to interview him to talk about fan base and educate the people on it and why we should be on that platform. Okay, so I think that'd be fantastic.
So let me, I'm gonna close it out with this here. I was at Stevie Wonder's radio station, KGLH, and I stopped by and did an interview on air, and I was greeting the staff, taking pictures and stuff like that. And there was a Black woman who worked, she might have been in accounting, she may have been support staff and sales, I can't remember. And so I came by her desk and I spoke to her, and she had a picture on her cubicle, and it was a photo of her son. And this is what she said to me. She said, "There's my first rounder." And I looked at her. I said, "Your what?" She said, "That's my baby. That's my first rounder." I said, "Sister, don't ever say that. Don't raise your son to be a first rounder. Raise your son to be the team owner." I said, "The team owner got more money than the first rounder." Mm-hmm. She gasped, and y'all, she started crying. She said, "No one has ever said that to me." She said, "No one has ever said to me, raise my son to be an owner." I said, "Well, now someone has." Y'all, this is what I'm talking about. She was raising her son to be the show in the show business. She was raising her son to be a part of the culture, as opposed to, no, owning the culture. Here's the video of Jason Weaver talking about that issue with the Lion King, and this is gonna be the last comment before I go to break and I go to my next guest.
You just a big upfront check with no royalties.
That's initially what they tried to do, yeah.
But you negotiated royalties.
Absolutely.
How big of a check was that when they offered you the upfront check?
Way more than what they initially offered. I'll just put it to you like that. Like, when I got my first royalty check, me and my mom thought it was a mistake.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is, okay, when they gave you the first offer,
Yeah.
with no royalties at all,
Yeah.
was it a huge check?
Oh, yeah. It was like, I remember it was like $2 million.
What?
Yeah.
They offered you a $2 million check to sing the parts in The Lion King.
Yeah.
Not even do the voice yet, just do the singing parts.
Just singing.
$2 million.
Yeah, because they were on it like...
They were cutting checks like that, huh?
Well, you got to remember, they're coming off of...
Well, I guess you're the main character.
Yeah, and then they're coming off of Beauty and the Beast. They're coming off of Aladdin. You know what I'm saying? Like, Disney had bread.
Disney just would write a blank check, huh?
They'll write it. And that was the thing that struck my mom. She was like... Because our agent called and was like, "Kitty, they offered Jason this." And we were all like, "Holy shit, are you serious?" I mean, you know, that amount of money to average middle-class family in Chicago in the early 90s, that's something. But immediately my mom goes, "Wait a minute." After the initial excitement wore off, she's like, "Wait a minute. Okay, if they're willing to do that, okay, so that's it? That's all he'll ever get for like the remainder of his life?" They were like, "That's it. He takes the money. That's it." She was like, "No, let's negotiate royalties. Let's negotiate based off of royalties." And this was definitely at a time that when Disney wasn't doing those kind of deals.
Huh. Okay.
Unless you were like Peabo Bryson or somebody like that, like already an established huge pop star that they had recruited. I'm sure his deal was way...
That brother has blown past that 2 million, but they get us because they flash that money and we ain't never seen this much money. We ain't never seen 20 million. Negotiate the right deal, you can make 20 million. That brother's children's children will be earning money off the Lion King. Y'all, Disney still showing Mickey Mouse stuff. Imagine if somebody black owned the trademark or the copyright to Mickey Mouse. Y'all, that's generational wealth. We gotta always think on. Stop being the show in the show business. All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.